Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is Maciste In Hell. I hope I'm saying the name of the main character right. Now, Maciste In Hell is a 1925 Italian silent film, and this is actually the 24th film to feature the character of Maciste. So, this movie is actually part of the Maciste franchise. Now, normally when I review a movie in a franchise, I try to review all the films in that franchise, but in the case of this, I'm not even sure if you can even see all the films in this franchise. I know the first one, which came out in 1914, is actually available on YouTube now, but I'm not sure if you can see any of the other ones or not, so I'm just reviewing this one as a standalone film, and to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe there's any continuity between any of the Maciste films, at least not that I know of, because the first Maciste film, I believe, was set in ancient Rome, and this movie appears to be set in present time, and by present time, I mean 1925. It appears to either be set in 1925 or maybe the late 19th century, so it appears that there's really no continuity between any of the films that feature this character, so even though this is the 24th film in this franchise, I'm gonna review it as a standalone film. Now, what's interesting about this particular franchise, though, is these movies came out when movies were a relatively new thing, so this is probably one of the oldest movie franchises out there. Now, this movie, Maciste In Hell, is actually loosely based on Dante's Inferno, which is part 1 of Dante Alighieri's epic poem, The Divine Comedy. Like, hell in this movie is based on the version of hell that Dante described in the Inferno, and also many of the demons that show up in this movie are actually demons from Dante's Inferno. Like, in this movie, there's a scene where you see Lucifer, and he's frozen up to his waist in ice, and he's chewing on the head of a sinner, and that was taken right from Dante's Inferno. Like, in the Inferno, Dante described the 9th circle of hell as being this giant frozen lake, and Satan is frozen up to his waist in ice, and he chews on the head of Judas Iscariot, who of course is the man who betrayed Jesus, and he also chews on the head of Brutus and Cassius, who are the men who betrayed Julius Caesar. So there are a lot of things in this movie that are taken right from Dante's Inferno, but the story for this movie is completely different than the story for Dante's Inferno. So really the movie is only loosely based on Dante's poem. So the plot of the movie is it begins where a band of demons, led by a demon named Barbariccia, I'm not sure if I'm saying the name of this demon correctly, but this demon comes to Earth, and he comes for Maciste and tries to get Maciste to sell his soul to him, but Maciste refuses, so this demon then goes after the child of Maciste's cousin, and then Maciste manages to save this child, but then the demon takes Maciste to hell, so most of the movie takes place in hell. Now, in the movie, there's kind of a love triangle between Maciste and these two female demons, both of whom are completely in love with him. Now, one of these female demons is good and the other is evil, and in the movie, the evil one ends up kissing him and turns him into a demon. And in the movie, the demon Barbariccia is trying to start a rebellion in hell, and now Maciste has to stop him, and that's the basic plot line of Maciste in Hell. Now, I have Maciste in Hell on this box set here called Nightmare Worlds, which is a collection of 50 different horror and science fiction films. Now, I love Maciste in Hell. This is actually one of my favorite silent films. Like, I really enjoy this movie. Now, the character of Maciste, in this movie at least, is actually a really likable character. Now, this is the only movie I've seen to feature this character, but if this character is anything like he is in this movie, in the other movies, I could see why this character was so popular back when these movies came out. And this movie is actually visually quite beautiful. Like, there are a lot of sets in this movie for, like, hell and stuff like that are actually quite beautiful, and there's a lot of effects work in this movie that, for its time, I actually think were pretty good special effects. Like, there's a scene in this movie where Maciste punches this demon's head right off, and you see its head land on a pitchfork, and then you see its face, and you see, like, the dent that was made from Maciste's fist hitting the demon's face, and you see, like, the dent start to grow in, and they use, like, claymation effects, and it's actually, like, by today's standards, it is a little dated, but for its time, I could view that as very good special effects, and there's actually quite a few really good special effects in this movie. Now, there are some special effects in this film that really don't hold up too well. Like, there's a scene in this movie where you see a dragon, and the dragon is clearly a puppet, and the dragon also looks stoned. Now, a lot of the sets in this movie for Hell and a lot of the makeup effects for the demons, I'm guessing was probably not cheap. Like, I could see, like, at this time, this movie was probably viewed as this, like, epic adventure movie. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a really fun adventure movie slash horror slash fantasy film, and I highly recommend it. And compared to other silent horror films like Nosferatu, this one is actually pretty obscure, which I think is kind of a shame. I actually would recommend this for more people. Like, if you haven't seen this movie, and if you're into silent films, I would recommend checking this movie out, because this is actually a really good movie. Now, as I said, I have this movie on the Nightmare Worlds box set, so if you get this box set, I definitely recommend giving this movie a watch. Now, the Maciste franchise was actually rebooted in the 1960s, and there actually is another film called Maciste in Hell, which came out in 1962. But yeah, that's my review on Maciste in Hell, and bye.